I think you remember it better, do you?
Well, I remember the first shooting.
The first shoot that we did was such a fabulous shoot, and it ended up as a cover, of course. And it was the beginning of a very, very long association that I have been privileged to have with Amber, for sure.
It was a Patrick Demochet shoot.
Yes, it was, in St. Bart's.
In St. Bart's. And I remember very well. In fact, I remember connecting to Tonne immediately and creating a friendship that has lasted now, 30 years?
Yeah, I know.
30 years.
Yeah. I mean, we have had so many extraordinary circumstances where you really learn everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my kind of motto, because so many things can go wrong and do, and you can never let that get in your way. I mean, Amber and I did a shoot in Poughkeepsie, New York. There was a string of vintage cars that came down the main street, and they were going to a convention of 1950s vintage cars. And we literally ran into the road and stopped them and said, could we include you in a photograph? And there's one of my favorite photographs of Amber is her putting something in a mail slot on the sidewalk, but the car has driven up onto the sidewalk also. And it's a fabulous image. And part of the brilliance of it is, of course, from Garen. You could not have the character without the hair.
She's not also mentioning one of the most iconic shoots, which is the Angel story for Harper's.
Yes.
Which is one of, I think, the most, kind of talked about photo shoots and memorable photo shoots with Peter Lindbergh. And we shut down Times Square at like 5 in the morning. And then we included Paul Cavaco as our lost soul.
We've had some experiences,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Tonne was fortunate to be able to kind of showcase that and talk about it through her platform with American Vogue much sooner than anyone else was in the industry with style ethics, right? And at the time, I was coming back into fashion, and I had taken a break to act. And when I started to come back into fashion a decade ago, I decided that the only way I was able to come back was to come back with my values and to try to be a part of this tremendous change that we need to make in fashion to become a more equitable and sustainable industry. And so that was sort of the genesis. But I remember seeing Tonne's style ethic pages in Vogue and being so excited that Vogue was talking about it, but that Tonne specifically was talking about it. And again, I think we were both kind of talking about this subject way before it became the norm.
I mean, for me, it was easy. I was a hippie. I grew up in the 70s. 1970 was when the first Earth Day. I was right on board as a hippie right from the start. That is a terrifically loaded question, I have to say. I mean, you could dissect that question into a lot of different parts. I mean, the first part that I think is very important is creativity and innovation. And I think once we start to, kind of muffle that, we're in trouble, because that's where we will be able to be inspired and be, and encourage others to be inspired to find solutions with innovation. There is so much to do. There is, it is so heartbreaking to read the news on a daily basis because the planet is not happy. This is very obvious. And every one of us and every industry, not just the fashion industry, but every industry is not listening. They hear it, but they're not listening. And that I think is what we are really up against.
Yeah.
And the fashion industry, for one, has got a terrific voice, and it could be very, very well exploited by some of the major companies and be enormously effective.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Fashion, everyone gets dressed. And I think it's 1 in 4 people in the world work somehow connected to the garment industry, and mostly women. And we know that women are sort of the ones with the earning or the spending power. We know that when women are treated fairly and paid fairly, crime rates go down, we have more equality, we have more peace at home, we have better government policies. So that's just one aspect. And then you have, I think you spoke about the growth model. I think the question is, how much is enough for all of us as individuals, but also specifically to our industry? At what point do we say that our bottom line is good here? And can we look at growth in a different way? And I think we need to modernize the way we think about growth. And one of the biggest issues is we lose the value of a garment as soon as it's sold. It ends there for a brand. And if we start implementing innovation like passport technology in clothes and in fabric, brands could theoretically retain value much longer because of the resale and repurposing and reusing and breaking down the fibers by becoming a circular industry. And I think those are missed opportunities that actually would add to the bottom line. And as Tonne said, we're just not moving fast enough. We're not moving fast enough with government policies. We keep talking at the COP, let's see what happens at COP 28, but we keep talking and talking and talking, but we're not doing fast enough. And we have the ability to do much faster. And I think the fashion industry is probably the most nimble, most capable, and most creative to make the greatest change environmentally and socially. And I think it would be a real shame if we don't take the opportunity to do it.
There's so many, there are little things, like just the fact that mushrooms now have become a product that has a lot of life to it.
Has so many capabilities.
And, I think it's the smaller things like that that really start to, the other thing is the impression. And, everybody has always said that it's not a sexy subject. That's been one of the great kind of criticisms of dealing with sustainability and climate change is like, it's not trendy enough. And that's where some of the labels like Balenciaga that has instigated
Are they doing like a buyback or refurbishing old stuff?
Yeah, they're doing. And I think, the bigger technology that I think that you're hoping I could refer to, I really don't know. But I do feel that if we could, get some of the brands that already have this trendability built into their impression to the public, that could be very helpful.
Absolutely.
If they make it something that is covetable, and if you're not in on it, you're out. Mm-hmm. So I think that's part of a solution that could be very easily resolved and arrived at, not resolved, but arrived at. That's such a loaded question.
It's a really loaded question.
It really is.
I'm lucky I have a really great team that knows this is the forefront of everything I do. It's the lens in which we look through every project, or as much as we can. But I'm still selling clothes, and I'm still somehow trying to get you to buy. I'm trying to get you to buy better, but there is some sort of contradiction. And part of me would like to just quit and focus only on the sustainability consultancy and leadership. But there's another part of me that knows I have to use this platform, and I also have to put children through college. So there's this mixed bag. But I certainly don't do everything that comes my way. But I am definitely conflicted a lot.
Ditto. That's all I can say. I have to earn my living.
Right.
There's definitely conflicts that I have encountered. I try to enter any space with a voice to say, you know, are you not? Are you interested? What can we do? You know,
Yeah.
just
How
to
can we help?
just
Yeah.
to engage. But, you know, I mean, it's a conflict.
Do you think that, I'm curious, because my experience, every time I have this conversation with people who don't necessarily hire me for that or lead with that, do you find them saying, well, we just don't want to come out and say it. We don't want to lead with that because we're not doing enough of it, or we're not sure what people will think, or we don't want that to be our, you know, kind of motto that we're a sustainable brand. Do you find that? I find it a lot.
I find it less, I think, because I'm not as visible as you are, but I do feel that you know, the whole, you know, greenwashing has become a trend within itself as a part of the vocabulary. And I think people are very sensitive about the fact that you cannot be thoroughly sustainable. It's just, we don't have the wherewithal to do it from start to finish yet. So the encouragement has to be on, you know, step by step. And I think that when people approach you, you're very quick to say, I mean, I know this for a fact, Amber is very quick to say it's not about being a sustainable brand. It is about being a brand that honors the values of sustainability and works wherever it can to employ them. I mean, it is literally a step by step. And I think that that is what is so daunting to so many people. And I think that that's, you know, once you have an excuse, you're on to the next step. You've already dismissed it when you have an excuse. And I think that that's something that I recognize, you know, I've done, I'm sure, hundreds of times. But once they say, okay, so, you know, I get it, then they're on to the next thing. And the impression has not stuck. It just has not stuck.
I mean, the saying progress, not perfection, I think is really important here. I talk a lot about perfectionistic paralysis, because there's this sense with cancel culture or with bad press that if you're not doing it right from the beginning, or that you haven't been 100% environmentally friendly, or you didn't employ as many, you know, women in the beginning as you should have, or diverse group of people, like, but you're changing those things now. I think the problem with where we're at today is we don't give people the room to be, to make mistakes and to change and to try to do better than what they did in the past. It doesn't suddenly negate, like, you know, bad behavior, of course. But I think the fact that we are so harsh and quick to judge for people that somehow they need to be perfect, that people aren't actually trying to do better, or they're very quiet about what they're doing because they're scared. And that needs to really change. We cannot fix the problems that we're facing in the world today, whether you talk about the environment or social justice or, you know, people's human rights. You can't fix them by not having some forgiveness and sense of just human frailty. We're just not perfect. And we are trying to do the very best we can, and we must try to do better. But I think that, to me, don't you think, stops a lot of people from talking about what they're doing?
Yep.
Or wanting to do it because they're so damn scared.
I mean, that brings up another point, I think, which you mentioned earlier, which is transparency. And I think that if transparency became like a halo, you know, if you could wear it and be proud of it, then people would do more of it. Again, being transparent, you cannot from start to finish have a perfect score of every single step of the way you have been.
Impossible.
But what you can do is you can expose areas that need more attention, and you can exchange ideas with other companies, and you can, you know, it's about an exchange. This is a problem that is so global and so intense that everyone has to be involved in it. And it's
Everyone.
not a matter of holding cards to your chest. And I don't think that Amber and I are saying anything that everyone doesn't know.
Yeah.
I think that everybody does know it. I think that everyone is terrified. I speak for myself. I have children, and I worry about their future. I don't have young children, thank God, because then I'd really be worrying about their future. My children are in their 20s. But still, I mean, it's daunting. Everything that you read in the papers on a daily basis covers this issue.
It's true. Well, I am always a big believer in getting active in your community and in your local, state, and federal governments. I think signing petitions is really like minor, easy lift. It takes 2 seconds, and it can be about conservation, it could be about human rights, it could be about specific environmental issues. The point is just getting involved and educating yourself. And I also think voting. We need more diplomacy when it comes to these issues, because I think it's become very, there's like 2 sides and not a lot of middle ground and not enough collaboration. I think the public and the private sector have so much work they can do together. Business doesn't have to wait for government to change policy, and also government could be uplifted and invested upon with the private sector. So these new technologies can be implemented and created so that we create like a green, revolution, like new industrial revolution. I just think there's so many possibilities here. People just need to get involved, because we create, this is what I always say to corporations when I go and talk to them, or, whomever, when I'm speaking to a group, we create the group. We create the brand. We create the government. It's not like some, mysterious thing outside of ourselves. It's just people. So we just have to dream the future that we want to see. So I say get involved, and simple things like be mindful of what you buy and where you buy from, and
Well,
slow
once again,
down.
that's the power of the dollar.
That's the power of the money.
And that's the power of the vote that the money makes. So if you put all your money where there's a company that is being very consciously sustainable, and that means that the other company is losing out. So that's a vote.
Right now, there's a lot of short-term gains that don't help us long-term, and a lot of short-term distractions from these really big, global issues that we're facing. And I think paying more attention on a daily basis in one's own life, but also what's happening, will engage you to take action and make action. I think rather than, there it is, there's the emergency.
Sorry, go.
I think trying not to sit back in fear, that's the big one. It's like every little thing we do, big, small steps, make change. But they say most of what we do is a drop in the bucket. Doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing it compared to what fossil fuels are doing, or industries like the fashion industry. They must change, and the people who change it is us. We have to vote, we have to fight, and we have to keep talking about it to change it.
That's a pretty good summation, if you ask me. I think that the word that you have chosen is very important, style, because fashion is not necessarily style at all. Fashion is product and trend is very important to keep it moving so that you acknowledge a trend, buy into a trend, and then the trend is over, then you have another trend that you can buy into. Style is something that you own on your own, and it has nothing to do with what you have on your your body. I mean, your body, I feel, everybody has to get dressed, as Amber said. It's how you wear it, how it makes you feel, how you adopt what it is saying to other people. Everything you put on gives a message, delivers some kind of message. And I think that once you find the area that you're comfortable in, showing, illustrating by what you wear, that is when you acknowledge your own style. And its style is very personal, and I think that it is a mistake to say that fashion is style. I know I'm going to get killed for this, but it isn't. Style is not fashion. To me, I'm speaking for myself.
I would agree with Tonne 100%. I mean, no one could say it better than one of the greatest stylists ever. But yeah, I don't think I can add to that. I think she said it beautifully.